Every time you walk into a casino, you think you're making a choice: where to sit, what to play, when to stop. But here's the thing, almost none of those decisions are actually yours.
Casinos are not gambling businesses. Not really. They are environments built with one purpose: to separate you from your money as efficiently as possible, while making sure you feel good about it the whole time. The lighting, the layout, the sounds, the free drinks, even the carpet beneath your feet, all of it is deliberate. All of it has been tested. And the most unsettling part? Every one of these tactics is completely legal. We are not talking about cheating, not rigged machines, not loaded dice. What we are talking about is something far more sophisticated. A business model that has spent decades studying human psychology and has gotten very, very good at using it against you. So the real question is not whether casinos have an edge. Everyone already knows that. The question is, just how deep does that edge actually go? Las Vegas. The name alone carries a certain weight. A city built on sand, funded by organized crime, and somehow transformed into one of the most visited destinations on the planet. Today, the Las Vegas Strip generates billions of dollars every single year. And at the center of that machine are the casinos themselves. Massive, sprawling operations that are part hotel, part entertainment venue, part restaurant empire, and yes, part gambling hall. But to understand how casinos take your money, you first need to understand what a modern casino actually is. Take MGM Grand. Over 170,000 square feet of gaming floor, more than 6,000 hotel rooms across the complex, dozens of restaurants, nightclubs, a full arena for concerts and boxing. The casino floor alone holds thousands of slot machines and hundreds of table games. The scale is almost difficult to process when you are standing inside it. These are not small operations. A single major strip casino can cost anywhere from $1 billion to $5 billion to build. The Wynn cost $2.7 billion when it opened. The Cosmopolitan cost nearly $4 billion. Resorts World, which opened in 2021, came in at over $4.3 billion. These are some of the most expensive buildings ever constructed by private companies. And when you spend that kind of money, you need a very reliable system to get it back. That system starts the moment a guest walks through the front door. Actually, it starts before that, in the marketing, the promotions, the loyalty programs, the design of the entrance itself. Every touch point has been engineered. Nothing is accidental. The original promise of Las Vegas was simple. Come here, have fun, maybe get lucky. But the business model was never built around luck. It was built around certainty. The certainty that over time, across millions of visitors, the house always wins. The only variable was how long it would take, and how much the guest would enjoy losing. That is the foundation. And from that foundation, casinos have built 10 specific tactics, remarkably effective, completely legal, and almost entirely invisible to the average visitor. Let's talk about the numbers, because the numbers explain everything, why these tactics exist, and why casinos will never stop using them. The American Gaming Association reported that commercial casinos in the United States generated over $60 billion in gross gaming revenue in 2022. That was a record, and it was not an accident. It came directly from the application of every psychological and environmental strategy we are about to walk through. Gross gaming revenue, sometimes called GGR, is the money that remains after casinos pay out winnings to players. Here is how it works. 1,000 people bet a combined $1 million on slot machines in a single night.
The machines pay out $850,000 in winnings. The casino keeps $150,000. That is the GGR from those machines that night. Now multiply that across an entire property. Every table, every machine, every game, running 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The scale becomes clear. A single high-performing slot machine on the Strip can generate over $100,000 in revenue per year. MGM Resorts reported net revenues of $14.6 billion in 2022. Las Vegas Sands, even after selling its Nevada properties, reported $4 billion from Asian operations alone that same year. These are not businesses surviving on thin margins. The house edge on a standard American roulette wheel is 5.26%. For every $100 bet over time, the casino expects to keep $5.26. That sounds small, but when millions of bets are placed every day across a property, that edge becomes an extraordinarily reliable revenue machine. Slot machines carry a house edge somewhere between 2 and 15%, depending on the machine and denomination. Penny slots, which attract casual players who think they are risking very little, often carry the highest edge in the entire casino. That is not a coincidence. That is a business decision. Blackjack, played with perfect basic strategy, gives the casino an edge of less than 1%. But the vast majority of players do not use perfect strategy. They make emotional decisions. They chase losses. They take insurance bets that heavily favor the house. The actual realized edge on most blackjack tables runs between 2 and 4% when you account for real player behavior. This is precisely why the psychological tactics matter so much. The math already favors the casino. The tactics exist to keep you playing longer, betting more, and coming back again. Every additional hour you spend on the floor increases the probability that the house edge does
exactly what it was designed to do. The financial model of a casino is not built on beating any single player. It is built on volume and time. More players, more bets, more hours. And every one of the 10 tactics we are about to examine is designed to maximize exactly those 3 variables. Before we get into the tactics themselves, there is something worth understanding first. The casino industry did not develop these strategies in isolation. They evolved over decades, shaped by competition, by changing consumer behavior, and by one uncomfortable reality. Getting people to gamble is actually harder than it looks. In the early days of Las Vegas, the city had something it no longer has: novelty. Legal gambling was rare in America. Las Vegas was one of the only places you could do it openly. People came just for the experience of being there. The gambling was almost secondary to the atmosphere. That world no longer exists. Today, legal gambling is available in 45 of 50 American states in some form. Commercial casinos operate across the country. Tribal casinos have grown into a multi-billion-dollar industry of their own. Online platforms are expanding rapidly, offering thousands of games from your couch at any hour without a flight to Nevada. The competition for the gambling dollar has never been more intense. And then there is the generational shift. Millennials and Generation Z have shown a noticeably different relationship with traditional casino gambling compared to previous generations. They spend more on experiences, food, concerts, nightlife. They are less drawn to sitting in front of a slot machine for 3 hours. Several major casino operators have acknowledged this directly in investor presentations, experimenting with skill-based gaming and esports betting to attract a younger audience. Atlantic City tells a cautionary tale here. Once the only serious competitor to Las Vegas on the East Coast,
Atlantic City saw revenues peak at over $5 billion in 2006. Then, regional competition expanded. Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York, all opened casinos within driving distance of the same customer base. By 2014, 4 Atlantic City casinos had closed within a single year. The market had fragmented, and properties that had relied on geographic monopoly suddenly had nowhere to hide. Las Vegas avoided that fate, partly by repositioning itself. The Strip evolved from a gambling destination into a full entertainment destination. Today, it competes for your wallet against nightclubs charging $50 at the door, celebrity chef restaurants, residency concerts, and pool parties that cost more per afternoon than some hotels charge per night. What this tells us is that casino tactics are not static. They are continuously refined in response to market pressure. When competition increases and discretionary spending tightens, the incentive to extract more revenue from every visitor becomes stronger. The competitor.
10 tactics we are examining are not relics from the 1960s. Many of them have been sharpened and modernized precisely because the external environment has made them more necessary than ever. Now we get to the core of it. The 10 tactics themselves. What makes them so effective is not that any single one is overwhelming on its own. It is that they work together, layered on top of each other, creating an environment where your natural instincts are systematically working against you. Tactic 1. No clocks, no windows. Walk into almost any casino floor in Las Vegas and look for a clock. You will not find one. Look for a window with a view of the outside world. Also gone. This is deliberate. Casinos remove all environmental cues that help your brain track the passage of time. When you cannot tell whether it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning, your internal sense of how long you have been sitting there begins to break down. Studies on time perception have consistently shown that people underestimate elapsed time in environments without natural light or time markers. For a casino, every extra hour you spend on the floor is more expected revenue. Removing the clock is one of the cheapest and most effective tools in the entire operation. Tactic 2. The maze layout. Casino floors are not designed for easy navigation. They are designed to be disorienting. Exits are hard to find. Pathways curve and loop back on themselves. ATMs and cashier cages are positioned deep inside the property, not near the entrance. This layout forces you to walk past hundreds of machines and tables every time you move anywhere. And every time you walk past a game, there is a chance you stop. The design philosophy was largely developed by a man named Bill Friedman, who argued in his influential work on casino design that the ideal casino should feel like a maze that pulls players deeper in, rather than an open space that makes leaving feel easy. Tactic 3. Chips instead of cash. This one is subtle, but extraordinarily powerful. When you exchange your cash for casino chips, something changes in your brain. Chips do not feel like real money. They are colorful, abstract, disconnected from the value they represent. Research in behavioral economics has shown consistently that people gamble more freely and more recklessly with abstract representations of money than with physical currency. Losing 5 chips feels fundamentally different from watching 5 $20 bills leave your hand. The casino knows this. The chip system was not designed for convenience. It was designed for psychological distance. Tactic 4. Free alcohol. Casinos on the Strip offer complimentary drinks to players actively gambling on the floor. This is one of the most openly acknowledged tactics in the industry. And yet, it remains remarkably effective. Alcohol impairs judgment. It lowers risk aversion. It slows the decision to walk away. It increases the likelihood of chasing losses.
Losses. The cost of providing free drinks to a player is trivial compared to the additional revenue generated by keeping that player at the table for an extra hour or two. It is one of the highest return on investment hospitality decisions a casino makes. Tactic 5. Near misses on slot machines. Modern slot machines are programmed to display near-miss outcomes with a frequency that exceeds pure statistical probability. When 2 jackpot symbols appear on the pay line, and the third lands just above or below, your brain registers that as almost winning, rather than simply losing. Research in neuroscience has shown that near misses activate the same reward pathways in the brain as actual wins. They create a motivation to keep playing that a clean loss would never generate. Regulatory frameworks in most jurisdictions allow this practice, as long as overall payout percentages remain within required ranges. The near miss is legal, and it works. These first 5 tactics are environmental and structural. They shape the space around you before you have placed a single bet. The remaining 5 go deeper into loyalty, loss framing, and the way casinos turn your own data against you. But what is already clear from these first 5 is the underlying logic. Every flaw in human psychology identified by decades of research, poor time perception, spatial disorientation, the response to abstraction, impaired judgment, emotional reaction to near outcomes, all of it has been studied, documented, and built directly into the design of the space. This is not gambling. This is applied behavioral science at an architectural scale. So, we have established the environment. The physical space has been engineered against you before you even sit down. But the second layer of tactics goes deeper than architecture. It goes into data, psychology, and the very personal way casinos have learned to keep individual players coming back. Tactic 6. Loyalty programs and player tracking. Every major casino operates a loyalty program. MG has M Life Rewards, Caesars has Caesars Rewards, Wynn has Wynn Rewards. These programs feel like a gift. Ordinary amount of data about your behavior. The casino knows exactly which machines you play, how long you sit, how much you bet per spin, how you respond to losses, what time of day you tend to gamble, and how quickly you return after a big loss. That data is then used to send you precisely timed offers, designed to bring you back at your most vulnerable moments. Lost heavily last Saturday night? Expect a free room offer in your inbox by Monday morning. Tactic 7. Losses framed as wins. This one operates almost entirely below conscious awareness. On a modern slot machine, it is common to bet on multiple lines simultaneously. You might be wagering $1 across 20 lines, meaning each spin costs $20. The machine pays out $8. You just lost $12 on that spin. But the machine lights up. It plays a celebratory sound. It displays the word winner. Because $8 is technically a payout, the machine categorizes it as a win. These are called losses disguised as wins in academic literature, and research has shown they are processed by the brain similarly to actual profitable outcomes. The emotional response, the small rush, the brief satisfaction, is genuine, even though the financial result was negative. Casinos did not stumble onto this. It emerged from extensive testing of what keeps players engaged. Tactic 8. The sunk cost environment. Casinos are expertly designed to exploit the sunk cost fallacy, the deeply human tendency to keep investing in something because of what you have already put in, rather than making a rational assessment of what comes next. When you have been playing for 3 hours and you are down $200, the rational move is to evaluate your next bet entirely on its own merits. But that is not how human psychology works. Your brain frames continuing to play as a path to recovering what you have already lost. The casino amplifies this tendency through everything,
the loyalty points you have accumulated, the drink in your hand, the sense of ownership you feel over the particular machine you have been sitting at. Walking away does not just mean stopping. It means accepting the loss as real. And that is psychologically much harder than it sounds. Tactic 9. The VIP illusion. High limit rooms, personal hosts, expedited check-in, complimentary suites. For players who spend above a certain threshold, casinos create an experience of exclusivity that is genuinely seductive. You are not just a customer. You are a valued guest. You have a host who knows your name, remembers your preferences, calls to check in on you. The relationship feels personal. It feels warm. What it actually is a retention strategy applied to the casino's highest value customers. A player who feels a personal connection to their host is
significantly less likely to take their business to a competing property. The emotional bond becomes a financial anchor. And the host, whose compensation is often tied directly to the play volume of their assigned guests, has a very clear incentive to keep that relationship strong and that player active. Tactic 10. Controlled comfort. Temperature, oxygen levels, ambient sound, seat cushioning, the distance between machines, all of it is calibrated. Casinos maintain a consistent, slightly cool temperature that keeps players alert without being uncomfortable. Seating is designed to be comfortable enough to sit in for hours, but not so comfortable that it encourages sleep. The ambient sound on the casino floor, the electronic chimes, the shuffling of cards, the occasional eruption of a nearby jackpot, creates a sonic environment that has been shown to increase arousal and sustain attention. Even the carpet, famously loud and visually aggressive in many casinos, serves a purpose. It keeps your eyes up and forward, rather than looking down and mentally disengaging from the room. 10 tactics, all legal, all tested, all working right now on every casino floor operating at this moment. Here is where the conversation gets interesting, because none of this is a secret anymore. Academic researchers have been publishing studies on casino psychology since the 1980s. Journalists have written about it extensively. Documentaries have covered it. Books have been dedicated entirely to the subject. And yet, year after year, the gross gaming revenue numbers continue to climb. Which raises a genuinely uncomfortable question. Does awareness actually protect you? The honest answer, based on everything the research tells us, is not as much as you would hope. There have been genuine attempts to push back against some of these tactics. Problem gambling advocacy groups have lobbied for regulatory changes in multiple jurisdictions. Some of their efforts have produced real results. Several Australian states have implemented mandatory pre-commitment technology on electronic gaming machines, requiring players to set loss limits before they begin playing. The United Kingdom placed strict limits on fixed odds betting terminals, capping maximum stakes at £2 per spin, after research showed the machines were causing disproportionate harm among vulnerable players. These are meaningful interventions. They represent cases where external pressure actually changed the operating environment. But the casino industry in the United States has proven remarkably resilient against similar regulatory pressure. The American Gaming Association has consistently argued that gambling is a legal adult activity, that the vast majority of players gamble responsibly, and that heavy-handed regulation would damage a legitimate industry that employs hundreds of thousands of people and generates significant tax revenue for state governments. That argument has largely held.
Core tactics remain in place. On the individual level, some players have developed genuine countermeasures, setting a strict loss limit before entering and leaving the moment it is reached, refusing the free drinks entirely, using a watch or phone to track time deliberately, treating the casino budget as an entertainment expense, not an investment, sticking to games with the lowest house edge, and playing disciplined basic strategy. These approaches do work. They reduce the effectiveness of the tactics. A player who walks in with a clear budget, stays sober, tracks time, and plays disciplined blackjack is a significantly less profitable customer than the average visitor. But here is the structural problem with individual solutions. They require sustained, conscious effort in an environment specifically engineered to undermine sustained, conscious effort. The casino is not a neutral space where discipline is easy to maintain. It is an environment where every physical and psychological element has been designed to gradually erode exactly the kind of rational thinking that protects you. Fighting that environment requires constant active resistance. And over a long enough session, for most people, that resistance eventually weakens. The casino does not need to defeat your discipline immediately. It just needs to outlast it. Some casinos have made visible gestures toward responsible gambling. Self-exclusion programs allow problem gamblers to voluntarily ban themselves from properties. Signage near ATMs and cashier cages sometimes includes problem gambling hotline numbers. Staff are occasionally trained to identify signs of problem gambling behavior. These measures exist, and they are not entirely meaningless. But they are also not the primary design priority of any commercial casino operation. They are the concession made to regulators and public opinion, while the core business model continues to operate exactly as it always has. The attempted solutions, both regulatory and individual, have produced some genuine progress at the margins. But the fundamental architecture of the casino environment, the absent clocks, the chips, the near misses, the loyalty data, the sunk cost framing, remains largely intact. And as long as that architecture remains intact, the tactics continue to work. So where does this leave us? The casino industry is not going anywhere. The revenue numbers make that clear. The expansion of legal gambling across the United States, the growth of online platforms, the integration of sports betting into mainstream entertainment, all of it points toward an industry becoming more present in daily life, not less. The tactics we have examined are not relics of a more permissive era. They are active, evolving, and increasingly sophisticated. What is changing is the medium. Online casinos and mobile gambling apps carry the same psychological architecture into your pocket. No clocks, losses framed as wins, loyalty programs tracking tap. The difference is that the casino is now available at 3 in the morning in your bedroom, with no social friction, no travel cost, and no physical environment to pull you back to reality. That is a meaningful escalation. The question worth sitting with is not whether these tactics are fair. Fairness is almost beside the point at this level of institutional design. The more useful question is whether the average person walking into a casino or opening a gambling app has any realistic understanding of the environment they are entering. Not the rules of the games, the architecture of the experience itself. Because an informed player is still at a mathematical disadvantage. But an uninformed player is at a mathematical disadvantage inside an environment that has been specifically built to keep them uninformed, comfortable, and convinced that the next bet might change everything. That gap between what the industry knows about human behavior and what the average player understands about how they are being influenced is where the real money is made. And until that gap closes,
the house will keep winning. Not because of luck, because of design. Subscribe for more breakdowns like this.